What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Pet Shop Boys, and we're going to listen to another bonus tune included in the expanded folder for Behaviour 1990. And this one, just to check the metadata real quick, it is listed as the Behaviour, it just says Behaviour B-side, so presumably this is from like a compilation. So either way, the tune is It Must Be Obvious, which is a very funny and cleverly written title. For two reasons. One, something being obvious is not really a quality where there should be much ambiguity. If something's obvious, then it should stand out to anyone with a sense of what's happening or the situation at hand. And if something is not obvious, if something is maybe discoverable through a bit of analysis, a bit of observation, then perhaps, it's a very knowable perspective, but it's not immediately obvious. It's not something where, like, you look at it for a few seconds, oh, of course it's this, because I see this and that, and I'm aware of what I'm looking at. So to say it must be obvious is funny, because it's like the speaker or the person issuing that phrase seems to be unaware of whether it's obvious or not. And again, it doesn't tend to be a quality. It tends to be all or nothing. It's not, well, it's sort of obvious. Well, it's like, well, then it's not obvious. It's, perhaps understandable, but through a bit of effort, or, whatever phrase you come up with. But if something is put onto a scale of how obvious it is, then already I think, there's some semantic intrigue afoot. And to say it must be obvious is to say, essentially, that others have concluded it so, or I can discern through everybody else's behavior that this is something that's clear and straight away. It doesn't seem so to me, or at least that comes across as the implication, that there's a disconnect between the speaker and their perception versus other people, in particular in terms of how clear some characteristic, some aspect of the situation might be. So again, it's a funny and clever title, and it feels, that's maybe the 50th time I've said that when it comes to a Pet Shop Boys tune. They really do have a nice turn of phrase, not only in the lyrics, but even specifically in the title of tracks, where whether drawing on a common phrase or just the way that something is rendered in the title, there's often a lot to be drawn from it. So let's find out what the tune actually is. This is Pet Shop Boys. The track is It Must Be Obvious, and it's listed as coming from a set of Behaviour B-sides, with Behaviour being their 1990 album. Which, if you want your speakers on, it might help. Okay. It Must Be Obvious.
Sometimes I stray just a bit. Oh no, it should be poetry, not prose. I'm in love with you. Do you think it shows? Everyone knows when they look at us, 'cause they do, it must be obvious. Never told you, now I suppose that you're the only one who doesn't know. You were different
on it
We
too.
met in an ordinary way. I didn't intend to interrupt your own shallow play. Oh no, I won't upset the status quo. I'm in love with you. Do you think it shows? And everyone knows when they look at us. 'Cause they do, it must be obvious. Never ask me, I'm surprised. 'Cause you're the only one who hasn't
Even that part, I love that.
Everyone knows when they look at us. 'Cause they do, it must be obvious. I never asked you, now I suppose. 'Cause you're the only one who doesn't know. When they look at us, it must be obvious.
So what's going on sonically in this one? Quite apart from the compelling theme. Yeah, it's a cool tune. I enjoyed charting the lyrics, and I was, in some ways, it's like I was saying, it's the idea of other people's behavior. Like, wait, given what I'm seeing and what appears to be happening, it must be obvious what's going on. But I wasn't thinking it's like two people and others. I was thinking maybe it's one person relative to another. But yeah, the idea of the narrator's love for the other person being obvious to everyone observing, and he being very aware of what he's feeling and what that is, and it must only be this other person who doesn't recognize that the object or the recipient of his love. So yeah, ultimately, again, it's a clever tune, and I like the idea of course other people can tell, like, of course, it's the way that I feel about you that will be evident in the way I'm talking, the way I'm behaving. So it feels like one of the brighter tunes when it comes to feelings of love and great sympathy toward another person. Although again, it's still this idea that it's up in the air or unfulfilled, or yet to be fully appreciated or realized by the other person. So yeah, it's again a clever tune, even if it, like, the angle of it is a bit different than I was thinking. So yeah, and like I said, the big percussive hits, which were then followed by these like electrical sort of synth streaks. They would, it wasn't even like a melody or like a percussive like bit. It was just like an echo, like this synth echo of those like crashes. And then ultimately, again, that keyboard run in those interlude sections, I really loved that. It had a bit of sauce to it. So ultimately, a cool tune sonically, and again, the end, like the percussive rolling drums of the end were quite intense, and I enjoyed that. But it was like, wow, like this is a bit more like cacophonous than sometimes they go. And I did like the end too, that sort of whispering synth bass line sort of fading into the wind. So all in all, a cool composition. People mentioned when I first started going through PSP that they're a group where their B-sides are often just as good as album tracks, and I think that has proved to be true. whether or not you think that about this one in particular. But yeah, ultimately I go through the full folders that Seb has made available because there are basically no skippers as far as I'm concerned. So shout out to Neil and Chris. Shout out to Seb for providing this journey and all the people who've been along for the ride. Do let me know what you think of this one. And Luca, the sleeping, dreaming cat, and I shall see you next time. Peace.